מרכז הצעירים זה מרכז שנותן שירותים לכל הצעירים בעיר, מגיל 18 עד 40, בתחום של תעסוקה, השכלה, מעורבות חברתית, קהילות, בינלאומיות ובתוך חיפה, וגם בתחום היזמות. עכשיו, במסגרת המפגש הזה שאנחנו מאוד שמחים לארח את גיל, אנחנו מקיימים גם בשבוע הבא מפגש פתיחה למה שאנחנו קוראים חיפה זה Advisory Board, סליחה על המשפט צרפתי, שזה בעצם מפגש של יזמים מתקדמים שנפגשים פעם בחודש לעבוד על המיזם שלהם ולקבל מתייעצים אחד עם השני, והחלק השני זה סוג של מנטורינג. אז מי שחושב שיכול להתאים לזה וחסר לו סוג של מסגרת לעבוד על המיזם שלו, זה הזמן להגיע, להתרשם, להכיר את החבר'ה. זה המפגש הראשון, ואנחנו גם עושים בתחילת חודש פברואר מיני סדנה עם פירמת דלויט, שזה בתחום של העסקי ופיננסי, שזה ללא עלות, אז זה כל הקודם זוכה, וכל זה כדי שתצליחו לקדם את המיזם, וכמובן שתישארו בחיפה. זה בגדול. אז היום אני ממש רוצה להודות שוב לגיל, על זה שהוא הגיע לכאן במגבלת זמן שהייתה לו שהוא נמצא בארץ, וזהו, אני בטוחה שאתם תהנו.
ברשותכם, אני הולך לעבור לאנגלית, זה בסדר?
Yeah, please.
Good, thank you. I'm going to switch to English because I always get confused when I see slides in English and I speak in Hebrew, so I hope this is better. I want to talk about fundraising in the US. When should you go to the US and how to do it, and some best practices that I've seen, some common pitfalls, and some funding advice. Now, this is based off beliefs, a few years of hosting Israeli entrepreneurs on my sofa in Palo Alto, trying to sort of come here and give feedback. Some is personal belief, but some I actually think it's fact. So I'm going to dive right in, but before that, one question, just so I get a feel for the crowd. How many here are entrepreneurs working on a startup or a venture of their own? There you go. How many are about to or want to quit their jobs or aspire to be? There you go. That's good. Okay, good. Just to get a sense of the crowd. So as I mentioned, please do stop me throughout. Some places I'm gonna stop and dive in. Some I'm just gonna walk through relatively fast. Yep. So this is what I hear most of the time and what I think many people believe when they think about the US and Silicon Valley. You show up, there's lots of money, and it's easy to get funding. Actually, just one part of that is true. There's lots of money. It's not easy, and you can't just show up and expect to get funding. And frankly, it might not be the right thing to do now for your startup or in general. So we'll talk about that in a second, but I just want to get this out of the way, since I hear seasoned entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs at all levels really believe that. And the reason why it's not the case is try to put yourself in the shoes of an investor in Silicon Valley. You've lived all your life in maybe Palo Alto, you have lots of friends who were Google employees, Facebook, you know the ecosystem really well, and you see a ton of startups, like a ton. Like if let's say you're an angel investor, you get, I don't know, dozens and dozens of emails a week from friends of friends, random emails, trying to have you meet them. People from your network, people you know, who all live that way there. You can easily do a background check on them. You open LinkedIn, there's 20 connections between you and them. And you can easily understand by asking them questions, who's your market, who's your customer, tell me who you're selling to. They tell you, hey, Intel across the street is a potential customer, and there's a couple of chains here that are buying it, and we have 10,000 users. And so you're like, okay, who should I invest in? And you're sitting there, scratching your head, you're hoping to invest in one or two. It's so tough because they're really great entrepreneurs. What are the likelihood that somebody shows up on your doorstep that you've never met them before. Maybe a first-time entrepreneur, and actually they tell you, you know, I'm here for a couple of weeks and I'd love for you to invest, and then I'm taking the money back to a country that's half a globe away. I would say the likelihood of you investing in that person is not high, and I'm being a little bit American here when I say not high. So pardon my understatement tone. It's really a very long shot. Now if you're Angry Birds and you show up after you have incredible traction, great, you'll be able to raise when they did. But if you're not, you want to make sure that you understand the context in which you're in. We'll talk more about fundraising afterwards, but I just want to get, to make this point. And usually when I say this, I hear the following: look, there's all these companies, Billguard, Watchdogs, Upbeat, Kenshu, there's a ton more that raise money in the US, and frankly, Israel is the number 2 ecosystem. You like my logo? That's the number 2 ecosystem in the world. Startup nation, don't they want to invest in Israelis? Sure. Investors do love these companies because these guys, and I know them, and probably you know some of them too, they spend lots of time on planes. They have a US presence before they fundraised, and they were able to generate pretty significant momentum. And we'll talk about that word just now. They were able to generate pretty significant momentum. They didn't just show up, they already had lots of customers or users when they came. So that's sort of just to set the context about fundraising. I promise to talk more about it afterwards. I think a lot of people are interested. But it's important to sort of emphasize, you can't just show up and expect, the Israeli aura to translate to money. It just doesn't work that way. I know it sounds sometimes obvious, but it's not. What you can do in Silicon Valley is frankly focus on the only thing that matters. And I'm being a little bit extreme here when I say this, but I do believe this to be the case. If you're an early stage startup and you're trying to build your product, you're trying to figure out, okay, what should I do? Who should I go to? Should I get this mentor? How should I build it? What should I say? What should I really be focusing on? You should focus on the only thing that matters. One man's opinion. And that's creating momentum. That's creating momentum for your startup. And we're going to define momentum in a second, but it's sort of, I define it as ecosystem signals that form a positive trend. And by momentum, I mean the combination of getting to product market fit. Do people want what you're selling? If you're an enterprise software company or you're doing mobile app, are people actually using it? Sort of an important question. So you want to make sure that whichever market you're targeting, and let's, for the sake of this discussion, today's discussion, assume the US market is sort of the place you want to start off with. You want to really be certain that people want this product. You want to figure out how you sell it. We have lots of companies come to us and say, look, I have this great product, but how am I going to get to my customers? And the good thing about Silicon Valley, and we'll talk about it in a second, you have all these companies right there and then that can help you with distribution. If you're going after the SMB market, the small and medium businesses, you're targeting online stores, Intuit is right there. So is Salesforce, so is many other companies. And for that, you really want to be there to talk to them and see if they're willing to partner with you. And finally, figuring out the business model. I'm going to focus on figuring it out. I'm not going to say having it baked in day one. It really depends on your venture. But you sort of want to make sure you know how to make money one day. And I think, I'm going to show, I think, too many slides today, but I would say this is probably one of the 2 or 3 more important ones. Because it's the only thing that matters. It truly is. In a second, in about 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about specifically what these means and what you should do. But you should lay the goals of getting to product market fit. Product market fit means you have something that your customer wants. Okay, coming in. You have something that your customer wants. To do that, I fundamentally believe you need to look them in the eye and say, do you want this product? Because you know what you're going to hear 9 out of 10? No. Now, when you hear that, it's totally fine. You want to ask why not. And the issue is, and what I've seen, and I'm going to give a few examples from upper stabs, is that very often startups build great products, really good looking products, but they build it to the wrong market or the wrong customer. So an assumption people make is, I'm going to create a product and I'm going to sell it to, here in Israel, to, let's choose a bank, one of the banks. I'm going to sell it, I'm going to spend 6 to 12 months selling it to Bank Leumi. A very big assumption is that Bank Leumi is representative of the other banks in the world. And if you're able to sell to Bank Leumi, then Citibank or Bank of America or Chase Manhattan in the US have similar problems and want the same product with the same feature set at the same price. That's an awfully big assumption to make. Selling to Bank Leumi has its merits. Specifically, hey, does the product work? Does it break down and fall apart, and does it even do what it wants to do? But you have to be careful between, seeing if the product work and assuming that your American customers want to buy it. And so that's getting to product market fit. Distribution is, I'm going to sell my product. Okay, how am I going to reach my customers? Am I going to reach my customers by putting it on the App Store and hoping people will download it? Maybe. But what if I'm able to find partners that co-promote my app? Maybe I'm going to talk to people that have created highly viral applications in the past 5 years, and I can meet them and they can give me feedback on how they were able to get from 1 to 30 million downloads in a few years. So various distribution strategies. And finally, business model. Again, like I said in the beginning, are people willing and wanting to pay for what you do? So when you think about Silicon Valley, and I titled this presentation Accessing Silicon Valley, which is, creating momentum. That's really what it's all about. It's about creating momentum. Again, I'll talk about fundraising and some tactics afterwards, but it's about figuring these things out by talking to your customers. Now, just to define momentum, and notice I didn't use the word traction here. You go to investors and the rightly so use the word traction. How many users do you have? How many customers? Do you have money that is coming into the company? And those are important, right? How many users? How many customers? Great, you have 1,000 downloads, maybe 10,000, and a month later you have 100,000. That's a really good indicator. But there's other things that generate momentum. What if you signed a partnership with Wix and Intuit, like I said? That's pretty good. I know it's not bringing users right now, but that's a good signal for momentum. Maybe you have some key hires you made or brought on advisory boards that are strong. And then other things that you did. I use the term perceived momentum sometimes, which is some positive press. Having an article in TechCrunch or in the Israeli newspapers won't bring you lots of users, but it's all perceived momentum sometimes, beliefs that your company is doing well and launching new products. That has some value too. But those are the things I like to look at when I define momentum. It's not necessarily just users and customers, but it's also other things that sort of make sense. One slide before we go into some of the tactics and tachlis, what and how. So when should you go? Right? I mean, let's build the product, spend 6 months, we have it working, I don't want to embarrass myself, I'm going to show it to the US with something that doesn't work. So I'm going to work on it for 9 to 12 months, a few customers here in Israel, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to sell it hardcore. Well, I made it up 2 hours ago. STSSTIPP. That's when you should go, which is when you have something to show someone that isn't a PowerPoint. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I like to use that phrase. If you show up with a PowerPoint and you ask people, what do you think? they're like, great, I want it. But you have nothing to give them, so everybody wants something. They don't have to pay for it or commit. But the moment you have, and I'm going to use an example for, let's say you're doing an enterprise software company. I'm just going to make it up. The moment you can have the following discussion with the customer is when you should be looking them in the eye. Hi, I'm developing this product. I've built 25% of it, not 100%. But what I have so far is pretty good. And I want you to be my first customer. I might give you, a 90% discount for the first 6 months. But it's really solving a critical problem for you, and I'd love to sort of sit here and make sure the integration works well, and you're using my product, and you're helping me define it, and it's absolutely worthwhile because it's super critical for a business. The moment you can have this discussion in those sentences I just said, you should be talking to your customers and looking them in the eye. That's when you should go. Too many times I've seen entrepreneurs show up too late, and by too late meaning they've already built the product, they define it, they design it, a year goes by, and then they come to sell it, and then they realize that it's not what their target customers want. That's an awfully tough mistake to make, because now you've wasted your single most important asset, which is your time. Once again, and those 6 months or 9 months you build something that wasn't exactly what someone wanted is very hard to get back. Yes.
So how you know when it's the right time to show your product? Yeah, but if it's still not built the thing that you see in your mind.
Perfect. So I don't know how many know this following quotes. The following quote I'm slightly paraphrasing. It's from Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman was the founder of LinkedIn and Facebook. He has a great quote. He says something like, when you launch your product, if you're not embarrassed by it, then you waited too late. If you're like, wow, I'm so proud, this product is great, it's too late. You should be like, oh my God, I hope this doesn't crash and burn. That's roughly where you have to be. But again, I remember my fake discussion before with the customer, what I said. The moment you can look your customer in the eye and say what I said, look, this is 25% of what the product is. I know it's not perfect, but I'm committing to you because I think you really need what I'm building. Then you have to go and look them in the eye. That's the minimum. And this is another way of saying it. Any other questions?
You're talking about when you develop the product.
Yeah.
So only if you develop it, not if you, I don't know, if you have, like you said, something to show someone that isn't a product. Exactly. It's not have to be I don't know, a product. It can be
זה לא מנולן, זה לא...
Exactly.
It's not
so even not 25%. That's what I'm asking.
So
you just have an awesome idea and you've written down a pattern and you're working. You have to do research and.
Okay, so this is that's a great point. So this is sort of I sort of made up a case so you have something. If you have just a concept,
yeah,
and you want to go and you want to research it in the US, by all means, absolutely.
But you already did the research. That's what I mean. You did this 10%, 15, 25.
That's fine. My point is, you want to show up. What I'm trying to make a point is, if you show up to someone, to a big customer, let's say you want to sell to Macy's, or you want to sell to you want to talk to somebody who really understands consumer applications. If you come to them with an ideal, they'd be like, sure, it's great, it's fantastic. You've done the research, amazing. I really think you should do it.
But,
what feedback is that? That's not.
It's nothing, yeah.
It's nothing. But if you're like, look, I have here, it's not even on the App Store. I'm going to send it to you, just install it on your app. I just wanted to use it. That's enough to actually give me feedback.
But it's some kind of it's not a prototype, but it's like a demo to a prototype.
That's right. It's STSS/TIPP. You're right. It's not a prototype.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I get you.
Yes.
what is the distance between this and the proof of concept? Should the two iPhones really connect?
I
Or
have
is it
no idea.
No
No idea. I just know that you need to come to the customer. Let's say you're doing something. It's an example from one of our companies. What they do an authentication method. So I don't know how many RSA tokens. You work for Intel. You put your name, password, and you have this token with changing numbers, and you put it in. Right? Screw that. So they have a phone that you can put your name and password, and then when you take your phone, you place it next to the computer. It authenticates automatically because it transmits sound signal and does ultrasonic sound between the device and the mobile device. Slick logging. It's called slick logging. But my point is, they showed up with sort of a demo that does and shows this, and they were like, showed it to customers and like, wow, and they were like, wow, this is great, we love it, like, fantastic. Let's work on it together and make sure it happens for you. You just reminded me with the two phones. So, yeah, they weren't like, yeah, we'll install it in the server and tomorrow morning it's running on 1,000 machines. Yeah, no.
But something contradicts in the slide before. You said that in order to get momentum, you need customers and users.
Yeah.
If I have something that works without customers and users.
It's what?
If I have something that works, but without customers and users.
Yeah, so you go to generate momentum. So you bring something that has no customers and users. You show up and you're like, would you like to be my customer number one? You don't say it that way, but you know what I mean.
I choose it to be my friend.
Yes, you're very fortunate. We can be spending, thank you. We can be spending a lot of time, I just want to offer you, very fortunate to be one of my early customers for this amazing product we have. One thing about Silicon Valley, which is not too dissimilar from Israel, everybody is an entrepreneur, has somebody in their family who's an entrepreneur and wants to help. So it's amazing to me that it actually happens. That people are like, wow, I'm like, why is this, insanely large multi-billion-dollar company working with two guys that haven't raised funding on something that hopefully won't break day one, the second more than 3 people start using it. So the next few sets of slides, I'm going to do slightly fast, but please stop me. I'm just going to highlight a few points that at least I'm passionate about. So what do? So great. So you have a product, you have something to show someone that isn't a PowerPoint, and you want to go to the US, Silicon Valley. So, Saturday flight, 11:30 p.m., you can take off, do what you want, but really, how do you prepare for it, right? What do you do very tactically? So there's 3 phases I'm going to talk about: the setup, how do you plan ahead, what do you do when you're there, and things that you should do afterwards. Again, these are some best practices I've seen from entrepreneurs just like you. And they showed up and they did some amazing stuff and got amazing results. Showing up is pretty powerful. So, like I said before, it's always good timing. I recommend when you have something that isn't a PowerPoint, you want to create lists. You want to do significant research while at home. Not knowing your competition, not knowing your market is pretty tough. So you want to be able to know who you want to meet. Literally, who are your customers, partners, who do you want to meet? You create a list. You should plan about 6 weeks ahead of showing up. This needs to change. Visit for at least 2 weeks. It should be 3 or 4 weeks. And the way I recommend doing it is picking an anchor conference or event. So let's say you're doing a startup in ad tech, so advertising technologies. You are optimizing mobile application, mobile advertising, ad network, something in that space. Well, there's a big conference called AdTech. It's a series of conference. It takes place in New York and in Silicon Valley every few months, and you should be there. It doesn't, you should just make sure you're there to listen to everything that's being said. And you should use that as your anchor event. So let's say mid-Feb, I think the next one's mid-February, I'm not sure. You show up and you make that week 1. You go, you don't need to have a booth, you don't need to have anything. Just make sure you're there, talking to people, showing them what you have, talking about your idea, getting feedback. That's week 1. You leave the next few weeks.
What's the name again?
AdTech, AD, then Tech. There's similar conference for e-commerce, there's similar events, and some of them are good, like I said. You don't show up for that, they're just good anchors. You go for 3-4 weeks, you make that week 1, you collect business cards, you talk to people, you make sure you follow up. The rest of the time you live free, and we're going to talk about what you do the rest of the time. And what you do is you try to find people that can help. Myself, my email will be at the end, last slide, so you can ping me. You can ping people that were in the same military unit as yourself and have now moved there to work for a startup or Google or some company. Hey, do you know people in company X or company Y that I can meet, grab coffee with, tell them about what I do, get feedback, maybe see if they want to use what I have. Showing up. Now, when you're there, you really need to know your story. So, what do? A typical answer is, in the military, I was this A200 unit, and then me and my friends got together and we talked about, no, that's not what they meant. What they meant is, what do? You mean about 7 seconds or less. Forget the elevator pitch. 7 seconds or less, what is it that you do? You need to know your story when you talk to people in the conference or everybody, so they can see that you have something interesting, so you can digest and put you in a bucket. Sorry?
It's like a title?
It's like, yes.
A title in the subject?
Yes, 7 seconds. If you have to tell what it is that your startup does in 7 seconds or less. Not 30 seconds.
Yes.
7 seconds. After you say the 7 seconds, then go into your 30 seconds. It's fine. But you need to know your story. Yeah, and this is, of many of the points I see that people forget or don't do, this would be one key point to do. Build relationships. We have a very strong tendency, at least as Israelis I see, sorry for generalizing, to show up and believe that it's all business, my technology is the best. Yeah, it's not the case. It's just not the case. You need to be building relationships with people that you meet, that one day will become your customers. Every meeting that ends, okay, who else can you recommend that I should talk to that can give me feedback? Show up for meetups. Wow, there's so many meetups. Show up for relevant meetups that take place every day. And by doing that, the expression standing in harm's way, standing in God's way is when you put yourself in position that good things will happen. There's an Israeli company called Do the Mobile. I don't know if you know, they've raised $20 million by now. About 100 people, I'm not quite sure. The way they started, and I'm probably forgetting the details, but it was something like the following. The two founders met a guy who I think was a family member of one of the two founders, and he told them what they're doing, and they want to quit their jobs, they just quit their jobs, they need to raise money. And what they do is, it's a site that, as a website owner, you put your website, and then it gives you a little code that you can embed on your HTML site, and then when people go to your website from the mobile phone, it adapts automatically. So it's called Do the Mobile. The way they started was they told this guy what they want to do, and they gave them his business card, their business card. The guy went to a conference the next day in Los Angeles, sat next to one of the senior execs in AT&T, the big AT&T. And the guy was like, wow, we're looking for a solution that does mobile transcoding, website to mobile. He's like, oh, I have two guys for you. Here's their business card. Yeah, that led to a deal of a 2-3 person company with AT&T Interact. Okay, so when you tell people what you do, good things happen, and this is one story. I know many stories like that. So being out there, talking to people, showing what you do, super critical. Meet some investors. I said before I was very adamant about not meeting investors. Sure, meet investors. Make sure they're friends because they're not really in the mood for investing. I think when people show up for just 2 weeks or don't have the context or they don't know they're investors or don't have any knowledge about them before. But for the large part, if you can get some feedback from investors, that's always useful too. And ask for more help. And then in terms of follow-up, definitely send follow-up emails, track, and then plan your next trip. I don't think I've ever used Skype. I'm 13 and a half years in the States. I think the only time I've used Skype is when talking to Israeli entrepreneurs in Israel. Okay? Nobody, I'm going to say nobody, but, business is not done through Skype. Business is done by looking people in the eye, especially in Silicon Valley. So make sure you already are planning your next trip. There you go.
What makes it so special? What makes it so special to take a flight to the United States? And I'm asking seriously.
Excellent.
Because
So,
there are many people in Israel, many, like you said, investors. I didn't found one, but I'm just saying.
excellent. So I'm going to start with the bottom line. Okay?
Yeah.
I think showing up with something to show someone that isn't PowerPoint and talking to your customers and being there will change your life.
Without a doubt.
No, not change your business. Not change your business. Will change your life. And the reason why it will change your life is because suddenly you're incredibly passionate about what you do, and people talk your language. You do databases, automation. You do something in healthcare. And suddenly you find an incredible amount of people and wealth and knowledge in that specific space that want to help people that are smart to do something interesting. And I think that's what makes it special. The concentration of companies that are there, any company that you can possibly imagine has not only presence but probably the headquarters there from Google to Facebook to whomever. The concentration of money that is there, that rewards entrepreneurs and bets on entrepreneurs, that show traction, that show momentum, is amazing. I'm going to talk about some of our numbers in a second, but we've had 33 startups come to Upbeat Labs, and over 2/3 fundraise. 95% of the money was from American investors, and I can guarantee you the vast majority of them have never invested in any Israeli entrepreneur. They've never invested in Israeli entrepreneur. The reason why they do it is because smart entrepreneurs show up and say, wow, we have something pretty cool here. And they're able to show momentum and people give them money because they want to be with them as they build their business. Yes?
It's important that the company will be in USA and not
In the US? Thank you. The check is in the mail. It's one of my favorite questions. So as an entrepreneur, and I'm assuming you're not talking legally, you're talking about the company, right, people?
The company that I'm in Israel. I have 3 children in school.
Fantastic.
I know it's life-changing, but I want my life, not the children.
That's fine. So nobody
Yes,
says
that's
nothing,
what I'm asking.
nothing here is about moving to the US, right? Everything here is about being close to your customers and going back and forth, right? Incredibly tough. Everything I just said is not difficult, it's not tough. It's incredibly tough. You know what's tougher? Spending time building something that ultimately doesn't sell. Because I said it before and I'll say it again. The most scarce asset in all of this is not the money you raise from friends and family. It's not the $500,000 from the Madan Rashi or the $3 million from VCs. It's your time. It's okay. They give you money, they have money. It's fine. It's your time. Okay?
So what is your answer?
So my answer is, long term, there's 3 options for Israeli companies, I think. There's an option of everybody is in Haifa, 20 people R&D, 10 people in sales, marketing, 40, 50 you know, when I say long term, let's go with 3 to 4 years. Not really long term. Option number 2, everybody is there. Let's go or move. Come on, let's all move to Silicon Valley. And option number 3 is do some type of split, which is I will be in Israel, the other 20% of the company, they are sales and marketing. So let's see at a high level what each pros and cons are. Everybody's in Israel. First of all, Haifa, amazing, right? You get to be here next to the beach, amazing, all the companies together, much easier to operate. Small problem, you're far away from the market, you risk building something that nobody wants. Solve the problem. Option number 2, everybody's over there. Wait, let's all move, be close to the market. You're not hiring any technical folks. I hear all the time it's very challenging finding engineers and tech talent in Israel. Absolutely true. It's impossible to do it in Silicon Valley. You think it's hard here? It's hard here. It's impossible in Silicon Valley. So if you move there, who are you going to hire? The friends from 8200 or wherever are not around. So that means, yeah, everybody's together close to the market, but not so much, you can't hire, you're building product much slower than you want to. And option number 3 is insanity. You have 80% of the company in Israel, 20% of the company there, the CEO goes back and forth, you're close to the market, you're hiring people, but what happens to company culture and stuff, and how do you control everything? Okay, which problem would you rather have as a CEO? A problem of, I'm far from the market, I better be building something someone wants. A problem of, I can't hire anyone, so my product is being built slowly. Or, you know what, I need to be a lot of time on the plane, and I need strong people in both places. If I'm the CEO, I'd rather deal with problem number 3. Okay, so with that in mind, that's 3 to 4 years out, then you have to be thinking about going back and forth for the time being, and sometimes maybe hire someone there, sales, CEO, someone that's there. Yeah, but you need to be thinking about it early on. Again, what I've just shared is my own personal belief. There's definitely exceptions to the rule. There's definitely exceptions to the rules, but that's my personal belief. I've seen lots of amazing companies being built that way. Any other questions? Yes.
I heard that if I want to present to the VC in America, if I don't sell, the rev share is not coming from Americans, they will not listen to me. Let's say I have a Wiki Contacto, or I like the people that put money for my product are not in the US.
Yeah. So let's say, you know, you are sitting here in the Eckerstein building in Herzliya Pituach, and you're a venture capitalist. Okay? An entrepreneur comes to you from Denmark and tells you, hey, I have this amazing product, you should invest in me, I've moved here, and I have this Danish company that's giving me money, right, from Denmark. What are you going to think? You're thinking 2 things, I think. 1, are they representative of the target market? Is selling to this Danish customer representative of the real customers, the global customers? Maybe. Second, maybe he's their uncle. Can I call this Danish customer and see if they're selling? Is it true? So, again, in context, it sort of depends, but at the high level, they need proof that the customers is actually representing your target customers. So, it's not just because, you know, hey, I wanted to be in the US. It's because they're like, wow, maybe what you built is fantastic for a different market, just not for the American market, which is slightly bigger.
What about company or individual entrepreneur? So if I don't know yet if I want where to put a company in the US or in Israel, I have already the outfit. Okay, I have something. Should I go only with like a company title, so it will be serious that I already involved in a company, you know what I mean, legally?
Yeah.
Really like,
I will
it's okay, if I feel not written, you know, because, no, I'm not talking about selling, by the way. I'm not talking about selling, but to look for, for money. And most important, cooperation with company developers, etc.
Yeah. In general, when you're in the US, you want to have some landing page at least of your site and something you can hand people. Whether you register the company officially or not, I will leave it to the lawyers to give you advice on. But you want to show up in this e-commerce conference because you're doing something that sits on Magento and you know it's some plugin. You want to say, hey, go to my website. There's information. Here's my contact information. Absolutely, you want something. Legally, I let the lawyers comment on that.
No, I think that what she meant it's the appearance. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, how do you how do they look to you if you are just an individual or you have a company or partners of a company?
Few partners,
Or if you have like 3 co-founders or 1 co-founder and
or you are one and
look,
you are outsourcing themselves.
they're seeing one person in front of them. That's who they're going to see. That's how they're going to treat this person.
Because in
They're
Israel
not-
it's not like that.
Yeah. So I think people will give you a chance based on your merit, how you come across, and are you smart in what you're doing, and you're selling something valuable, which is why you need to show up with something. Yeah.
The question is just a strange one, but what if you are a one person in the cruise? I mean, you don't have, you're not a developer, you're not a software guy, you're just a crazy guy with a crazy idea, like what you do.
Yeah.
So the actually question is this program is relevant, or can you go to investors and talk with them, or American, that doesn't matter, because they see only one guy and they say, okay, most of the company wants two persons, a developer side or
Again, if you do something smart and you show up and you have something that's serious, people will listen, I think. Investors is slightly different. They're trying to give people money rather than talk to people and just give feedback, right? So it depends on the context, who made the intro and what is it that you do.
yeah, but like you said, they liked it, but it doesn't really help.
Yeah, let's talk about it afterwards.
Okay.
I'm happy to elaborate on that. I want to go into a couple of slides that I'm particularly passionate about. These are common pitfalls, or rather, what not to do. I call it the shortlist because it can go for a few slides, but I only have one here, I promise. I think Americans in general, and in Silicon Valley in particular, people are very happy. People are very happy. So how's it going? Let's say you launched the product, the first version, crashed and burned. The users hated it, gave you like a ton of rejects, you couldn't believe it, you didn't sleep for a week. 2 months later you're coming up with a second version. And somebody asks you, how's it going? Your answer should be, it's going really well. We launched our first product 2 months ago, and we got the customers were very passionate about what we did. They gave us tremendous feedback, and we've now integrated it all in this next version. Okay? Being upbeat and optimistic is super critical because our tendency as Israelis to say, how's it going? It's okay. The launch was okay, not that great. All the customers, If you're like that, then the person on the other side absolutely believes your company is shutting down tomorrow and will not talk to you. Now notice in what I've said before, I wasn't lying. They did in the second launch, in the second version, learn a ton from all the feedback they got from the users. But it's being optimistic. It's not about saying things are amazing without any content or context. You have to be very real, but still be positive and upbeat. I even bolded it. I think it's that important. It's a very cultural nuance that you need to know. It's particularly true for folks in Silicon Valley. I think growing up in Israel, I think, especially in some of the units, I was in Bank Command, but I have friends in the other units, and they always, they like answering lots of questions. So, it's like, what? I don't know something, I'm going to answer it. Of course I know it. That's also not good. Now, clearly, if somebody asks you who your competition is, you should know your competition. But It's okay if people ask you some edge cases about certain type of companies, customers, it's okay, but look, we think these customers are going to love it, but to be honest, we're still validating that assumption. It's okay. It's okay not to come across as a know-it-all. Different cultures. We talked about the importance of knowing your story. 7 seconds, 30 seconds, you absolutely need to know what you're doing. If you're talking to someone that you've set up a meeting with and you have no context and you didn't do the research, you don't know what they've invested in or where they worked, it sort of shows you as someone not serious. You don't want to be that person. This is an interesting point. If you are networking in a meetup or you are in a room pitching investors, if they ask you about your competition and the answer is, yeah, those guys are not very good. Really, I don't think they're serious, they're really going to fail. There's actually, you might as well end the conversation, and if you're pitching an investor, you might as well get up and leave the room, because it's such a bad mistake to make, there's no undoing it. You have to actually believe and give respect to people. It's okay to say, look, we know those guys, we think they're doing something very interesting, they're heading down a different path than us. Or, I think that we're 9 months ahead of them in terms of development in our technology. Never, ever, ever badmouth or dismiss the competition. We have a saying in Hebrew from the army, I apologize, הוראות אלה נכתבו בדם. This is one of them. Sorry for the analogy. You show up and then you disappear for 12 months, coming back expecting people to remember you, and hey, you remember me for 12 months ago? No, I don't. I actually do not remember you. And then, hey, emails, hey, Skype, not so much. Fundraising tips. If we had another hour, I would spend just on this. I will try to elaborate a little bit just because I'm passionate about a few things here. So please bear with me. I think it's important. We've already established this, I think. Focus on creating momentum, not fundraising. I mean, that's really the important thing. So let's talk about, I'm going to take a 2-minute sort of side comment here and talk about fund economics. And I'm going to talk about fund economics, and then I'm going to tie it back to this discussion in Silicon Valley. So I apologize. Let's say you've raised a fund, and again, this is sort of my belief how I think things operate from what I hear. I'm not a venture capitalist, but I believe this to be true. If you raise a fund, $300 million, that's a big Israeli fund, Pitango Carmel and so forth. There's a few heuristics you use as a partner in venture capital. A few heuristics is that for every 50 investments you're going to make, let's say you make 30 investments. You raise $300 million, you make 30 investments. I know the math is off, but let's say that's the case. You know that every single successful venture fund that has existed in the past 20 years, it was roughly the following. 30 investments. 26, 27, made no money. You lost your money. Okay, great entrepreneurs tried something, didn't work out. 1 or 2 are going to give you some returns, 20, 25% returns. And then you're hoping that one of the company of the 30 is Waze. And they gave you all the returns, you were able to do 2 or 3 times the fund. What does that mean? It means that if you give an entrepreneur $5 million, okay, and 3 years later, you sit on their board, you work with them, you give them more money with other VCs, and 3 years later, they give you 20 million back because they sold the company for 100 million. And let's say you had 20% after 3 years. and I apologize, I'm going to say something a little bit aggressive. You sort of wasted your own time as a venture capitalist. You gave them 5, you got 20. Okay? You raised $300 million, and you promised to give back your investors 3 times that. You promised to give them 900. How is giving 5 and getting 20 after 3 or 4 years helping you reach your goal as a venture capitalist? The answer is, it doesn't. It doesn't. And it happens a lot, and that's fine, and you're excited for the entrepreneur, and you said it an exit, but you understand fund economics, and you know that to return the fund, or to do well, or to keep your job, and to raise the next fund, you need to be hitting a home run. You need to be, getting roughly, out of the 300 million fund, you need to aim for $300, $400, $500 million worth of exit for one company, so you can get $100 or $150 million back, right? If you have 20% of the company that sells for $500 million, you get $100 million back. That's okay. You return a third of the fund with one exit. That's pretty good. So those are the economics you know if you have a $3 million fund. What do you think you need to do when you have a fund like Andreessen Horowitz or NEA, those are big funds in the US, that raise, I don't know, $2 billion. So help me out with the math here. $2 billion is the size of the fund. You promised to give back 3 times that, right? So $6 billion. $6 billion you have to give back over the next 10 years. That's a lot of money. And if at an exit, when a company sells or does an IPO, you have 20% of the company, that means you need to have companies that do an IPO and exit of about $30 billion. That will be 30. So now you have all the money in the world as an investor in Silicon Valley, and you want to give people money. You can't be given $5, $10, or $10 million checks and then, hey, thank you, here's 50 back or 100 back after a few years. It doesn't work that way. You need mega exits. You're basically betting that for the next 5 years you're going to make a bunch of investments, and one of them is going to be Facebook. Because if one of them is not Facebook, then you're in trouble. Because all these, I gave 5, I got back 50, is not going to give you $6 billion if you raise a $2 billion fund. So that was a small distraction, and I'm happy to do the math afterwards, but it's all to come to this point. The big funds in Silicon Valley are looking for mega exits. If you go in and fundraise, explaining to them how you're going to take their $5 million and you're going to sell your company for $200 million a few years later is not interesting. It's not interesting, and for these specific funds I discussed, it's a humongous waste of time. And a partner that sits on your board and after 3 or 4 years sells the company for $200 million, after, if they have a big fund, is going to get an angry phone call from the fund investors who are going to ask him if he wants to keep his job and if he doesn't understand how economics works. So, you're going to ask for money from someone, and forget the money. You want 5 million, 10 million, they'll give you the money. You're basically asking a partner to bet part of their career, their personal career and reputation, on you. They can only sit on 7 or 8 boards, they can only invest in 7 or 8 companies, roughly, more or less. And you're asking them to bet part of their career. This is not a bank, this is not he or she does 1,000 transactions. You're asking them to bet part of their career on you. So with that context, when you meet an investor, make sure you understand their economics, how they operate. An interesting anecdote. Okay, come on in, there's one seat there. An interesting anecdote, and I'm going to ask myself this question. I'm not going to wait for someone to ask me the following question. So sometimes I hear, Gil, that's nice, you give me an example of a $2 billion fund. Wait, I'm not raising from the $2 billion fund. I'm going to go to an angel or micro VC, they're going to give me $1 million. And after 3 years, I'm going to give them 7 or 8 back, and they would be amazingly excited to do that. And you know what, you're right, they would. But something else they're thinking. Okay, I'm going to give you $1 million. Let's say I'm a small venture fund, I have $50 million or more. I want to give you $1 million. What am I thinking? I'm thinking, that a year from now that money will end, right? It will run out, you hire people, and then you'll have to go and raise more money. I don't want you to come to me and I'll give you more money. I want you to go to big VCs to raise $5 or $10 million. Now guess who has $5 or $10 million to give you? The funds that have $1 billion or $2 billion. So if I'm a good venture capitalist and I have a small fund, right now I'm going to ask you the tough questions that we'll ask you a year from now. How is this going to be a multi-billion-dollar business? And this specific question is the reason why amazing teams and great products don't get funding. Because people believe that at scale, when they succeed, they will be able to get $10 million in sales and be able to sell for $150 million, somebody will buy them. Fantastic. I think those incredible outcomes for entrepreneurs, I envy them, but when you talk to the big VCs, when you go to Silicon Valley, when you talk to people, you can't be aiming for that. It's a very subtle point. I'm sorry I'm spending too much on that, but believe me when I say that's the single biggest reason why people don't fundraise, is they don't understand the economics and the incentives of the people they're raising money from. This was like very on the tip of the eye, very sort of a very short snippet of a longer discussion you should be learning about, but that's a real thing. Reference matters. You can't just knock on doors. I think most of you know this. You need some reference, someone to introduce you. The last point. So you started a company. You and your two founders. Amazingly excited. Maybe you put $50,000 of your own money and friends' money in it. And you're on your way. Now you're hiring employee number one, right? Your two co-founders, you want to hire a great person to sort of help you with development. You do all this research, you look for people in the army, they all work somewhere else. But, so you're interviewing people, you've focused on one person. This one person, your first employee, it's really important, right? You are going to be spending lots of time with them, you're going to give them stock options, so you call up all these people that he worked for or she worked for, you're going to do reference checks, you're going to do 2 full days of interviews and trial period, and then after 3 months it doesn't work out. Why? Because it happens, right? 3 months, 4 months, 5 months works out, you're going to have to let them go. The employee was good, but wasn't great, didn't fit. So, for a person that you bring into your company that you can fire, you're spending significant time doing due diligence on. How much time do you think you should be spending due diligence on for a person that is going to be able to fire you, either now or in the future? Because they're going to sit on your board, even though they give you money, how much due diligence should you be doing? The answer is a lot. Not because they're bad people, not because of anything like that, but because you need to make sure that whoever is going to join your journey, because they gave you $1 million or $200,000 or $5 million, you want to work with them, and you're okay with them being able sometime down the road to probably decide your fate as a CEO if you continue to run the company. So do your due diligence. Super simple point. I know it's really difficult to do when you walk into a room of an investor and the analogy is they take the suitcase and they pour this money on the table and you see lots of money on the table, and you've been working for a year out of someone's garage and you have no money and you're in debt and your credit card, you see all this money. It's very easy for me to come in and say do your due diligence. Do your due diligence. There's no fire in your investors. Okay? That's the point. That's some point about Silicon Valley. We're going to talk about Q&A. I'm going to talk a little bit about Upbeat Labs now, if that's okay. We started 2 years ago. We focused on creating momentum. Hey, we all know that. 33 companies have gone through the program, over 100 founders. And we work with companies that are mainly in the software space, some connected devices as well. People come to us from a stage that the minimum is something to show someone that isn't a PowerPoint, but we also have companies that have 2 million downloads of on Android, have $300,000 in revenues, raised $1 million, and then they come to us. Why? Because they all know they need to get to the US. The reason people come to us is because they know they have to be there, they have no problem getting on a plane, and they know that time is their most valuable asset, and they're trying to desperately find ways of doing it faster. And they believe that through us, and we believe, they can do it better and faster. So that's why people come to us. We offer 4 things. First of all, a very robust business network. Pretty much every company that you will ever want to talk to or need or partner with will be there. We have over 100 mentors, and the reason why it's important is because it's not just who I know or my partners know, but who our network knows. Our mentors often become personal advisors. They have gone on to invest in the companies as well, but more importantly, they support our entrepreneurs. Access to capital. It's sort of an interesting point. When companies come to us for the initial 4 months, we call it phase 1 for the program, because you come and you try to create this momentum. Before they come, we always tell them, you will not be fundraising during these 3 or 4 months. And then I say it again, just in case I wasn't clear the first time. There are investors there all the time. Investors come to our office week 2, but the companies are just not ready. Not because they're not good or they're too early, just because you need to go through a certain process for a 3 or 4 months period where you actually get customers and partners and know your business model, everything I just discussed before. And then you'll be ready, yes.
So you're expecting the R&D to stay in Israel and for people to come there 3 months and
4 months. So some companies,
how can you control the R&D here? And
so some companies come 5 people.
Yeah.
Some companies come 2 people. We don't tell them how many to come. The CEO plus at least 1 more person needs to come for the full 3 or 4 months.
So the company here will run without the CEO coming all the time?
Wow, imagine that.
Okay.
What would you rather have? Being close to the market and product development? Everybody see
No, I understand your explanation before by making trips. But to stay there for 4 months.
There you go.
Okay.
Forget that. What if I told you that the average age was 30 something, and most people leave back home, their families, kids, significant others. Afterwards I'll tell you stories of pregnant wives and people that come to the program, come back to Israel to get married themselves for 3 or 4 days, and then wave goodbye and go back. Entrepreneurs are crazy.
If he's not coming back with a lot of money?
They didn't. But he promised a great honeymoon, so smart. So you land in SFO, we give you money, accelerators, we give you money, we receive equity. You land in SFO, you get $25,000. You rent a car and you drive to a house where you can live in, 400 square foot. You don't have to be there, you can rent your own place, but 98% of our entrepreneurs decide to live there. Why? Because it's easier and it's fun. You wake up in the morning, you go to an office. This means that you're wasting 0 time in logistics, friction, or whoever. And then every day there's about 1 session a day, about workshop on fundraising, UI, UX, and product. And the other 90% of the time is us kicking the entrepreneurs out of the room because we don't like seeing people in the office. We send them to meet their customers and partners in the ecosystem because that's what matters. And staying in the office is not important and not relevant. So that's what we focus on. I want to give 2 case studies because I feel it's very high level. So we're Sentinel, next generation malware detection. Met them a year ago. Yeah, actually, this is January. November last year. They just put Checkpoint. A few guys, the CEO sold his first startup. They had an early prototype. I'm being kind when I say prototype. For those that asked, I'm rounding up. Obviously no customers, no pilots, no funding, barely anything. But in the 3 months they were there, We got them pilots with Oracle, Intel, Adobe, and one more. An advisory board member, someone who was the chief security officer of Symantec. 2 months after the program, there is $2.5 million from Excel and other investors. It's a good signal, you know.
It's only what they got?
Hmm?
It's only what they got, 2.5?
Seed money.
Oh, okay.
Seed money. It's okay. You know. But what's interesting is that they haven't conquered anything, but with money, you buy time, you do things fast. So that was an example of smart guys, strong team, big market, big potential, doing something big. If it succeeds, big opportunity. Another company showed up, AdTech, Advertising Technologies. I'll give you an example. It's like if you guys know Kenshu, the company, it's similar to that. Let's say you are Auto Trader. You are a company in the US and you want to advertise your cars. You sell cars all across the US. So every time somebody does a Google search for Honda Palo Alto or New York Ford, you want to appear on the not on the search results, but on the advertising on the right-hand side. So let's see, you have to do, let's say you have 50 make of cars and you have 4,000 locations in the US. That's lots of campaigns you have to run concurrently, AdWords and lots of optimization. So these guys came up with something interesting, Talpiot graduates. They had a product, a very large non-paying Israeli customer that the discussion was, hey, you're going to build it to this large non-paying Israeli customer, you know, are you sure that they represent your customer in the US, right? The entire discussion we had before. They raised $500,000, I think more, but let's call it $500,000. So you have a basic product, large Israeli client, and then they made the bet that to check whether, through our program, whether indeed the customer they're building the product for in Israel represents the market. Suspense. What did they find out? Well, they found out that the product they were building for the type of customer was not relevant. They changed it in time. They realized that the segment they were going after of customers was not the right segment. Good news, they found other customers that were willing to use their product and pay, always a good sign. And then they raised $2 million, or 1.7 from investors. So, 2 use cases. One, someone that showed with something to show someone without a PowerPoint, that isn't a PowerPoint, and then someone that showed with, product, Israeli client, it's already working. And in both cases, I think we saved them lots of time. So that's an example of Upwork Labs. To summarize, I like to put these two things up. What you should be walking around thinking about is what helps you build momentum and gets you to product market fit as fast as you can. Fast being an operative word here. It's incredibly difficult to build a startup. You will not succeed alone. I don't think you want to succeed alone. Who are you bringing to your side of the table to help you succeed? Which investors, advisors, employees? How are you going to do it? Those are the two key questions I think if I was an entrepreneur I would be thinking about. This is my email, gil@upworklabs.com. The following is possible. 1, you show up in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, you write me 2 weeks in advance. You can use our office space if you want for meetings, no worries. 2, you have you're raising money, you've reached the stage of raising money, you have a investor PowerPoint. You want to share, you want to get feedback, send me, happy to chat either by Skype or by email. Thirdly, and that's important, if you have decided that you need to be in Silicon Valley and you want to get there and you want to do stuff as fast as possible, and by being there I mean long term or have part of the business there. Very excited to talk to entrepreneurs with regards to Upwork Labs. Our next session begins next month. The one after that in August. So definitely feel free to talk to me now or later about next month's session. It's not too late, never is. And that's it. I'm happy.
Two questions.
Yes.
A, visa.
Yes.
Because both you then can get tourist visa. It will not.
It is actually B1, B2. It's a visa you take for business meeting. Since you're not working and not studying in the US, a B1, B2 visa where the focus of your trip is to meet people, get feedback, meet potential customers. This visa. You can't move to the US, but for 3, 4, 5 months, this is the visa to take. Long term, I can have a separate and long discussion about L1, H1B, and various ways. You can't just move to the US, you're right. But for the program,
No, just
No,
for the
but after
3, 4
investment,
months.
You get
it's,
investment, you can.
even without investment, B1, B2, visa works.
Okay. And secondly, if you start very early, like the first example you made, it's as an entrepreneur, if I get somebody to invest in a very early stage, what do I stays with me after I get more raising?
Diluted? You know, when the company sells for $10 billion and you have only 5%, I don't think you'll be complaining. So when we started Upbeat Labs 2.5 years ago, I spent 3 months researching this. I was like, okay, we will do less equity, more money, less equity, convertible note. We won't take equity, we won't give money, we will. And I did this research by talking to Israeli entrepreneurs until someone once told me, listen, Gil, I'm not quite sure if what model is right, but I know that if you tell me that what Y Combinator and Techstars are doing, which are US-based accelerators, if you do the same as them, then I know it's roughly fine. So that's what we're doing. Equity, if you raised 0 or $100,000 or $200,000 or slightly more, the equity is roughly 8%. Common stock, no board seat, no advisor board, no ratchets, no warrants, no discounts, only simple pro rata. If you raise $700,000 or more, it might be slightly less. But I'm excited to say we didn't invent the model. We rather be innovative on different things, not on the business model. Yes?
Your investors have the convertible note scheme when they invest in a company, so it's something different depends on the case.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I think you were asking when our companies fundraise, did they raise equity or convertible note?
I ask you, it's the model, like you say, in Y Combinator, the
Yes.
companies that invest, first investment got the...
$100,000 you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, no, we don't have that. Y Combinator Techstars have a convertible note with a cap and some rules around it. No, we give $25,000 plus minus, depending on the team size, for equity. That's what we focus on. Correct.
And investors, it's the agreement between investor and the company.
Yeah, like between us. Yeah, we have a simple document, common stock.
You help with the law stuff, etc. As
Yes.
Your mentors. Listen, because you know the money, 20,000 is good, but
Excellent.
to tell you the truth, the mentors is better because I planted to hire mentors. I want to raise money so I can hire these mentors.
So I'm excited.
So
I'm excited to talk
it's not
about
your money.
our program and
Yes.
the benefits. I can tell you a better way. If you go to our website, there's a section called Startups. You will see 33 companies there. You should be talking. You remember due diligence, my point about due
Yes.
diligence? You should be randomly picking companies there, finding their CEOs and asking them. If you want, I'm happy to make introductions to them or ones I think are more relevant to your space. You should be doing due diligence just like you do on any investor, because it's the best way to know about us. Like I said in the beginning, we're extremely excited that the first 2 years of of being able to help more than 2/3 to fundraise. The others, it doesn't mean they close down, it just means that they're still fundraising. And like I mentioned, most of the funding is pretty significant and helps the startup in its early days. But you don't come to Upbeat Labs to fundraise, you come to create momentum. Yes?
Two questions. One, can I download the
Presentation?
Yeah.
I'm happy to pass the PDF
Yeah,
version
it'll be
for
cool.
sure.
And two, how many companies succeed in your accelerator?
Ask me that in about 7 to 10 years and help me define what success means.
Okay, so I will read the question.
I said more than 2/3 fundraise. If you define that as succeed,
Oh, I didn't have.
oh yeah, then fine. I think success is a very relative term, but we need to start more time.
I don't think we'll have questions.
We can talk afterwards.
Okay.
One more? Yeah, go for it.
I read the research about the accelerators in the United States.
Yes.
And they both receive the money estimates of the accelerator. And
Yeah.
there was also how much cost the now Y Combinator.
Yeah.
You have this open information?
For Upbeat Labs?
Yeah.
So, Y Combinator is a program that I strongly encourage everyone to apply. It's been around since 2005, and having invested in about 550 or maybe 600 startups by now, they have an incredible record and track record. Our model is slightly different. Our class size is not 50 startups, but 5 to 6 startups, maybe 7 in each class. So for us, in the 2 years we've been up, 33 companies. So far, more than $20 million have been fundraised by these companies, and I'm, on a personal level, excited that the vast majority of that money has made it to Israel to hire folks here. So I like that.
אז רצינו להודות לך על ההרצאה, תודה רבה.